Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Ambrosio, and today on Voices of Social Change, Dr. Dean Gualco will be talking about the 6 keys of influence in your environment. Dean is a faculty member in Human Resources with Walden. He is a noted author who has written 7 books, including The Great People of Our Time and Making a Difference, Changing the World in Which You Live. Dean is also a public speaker who has served as a municipality department director, organizational leader, and is also the owner of Torgan Consulting. In this video, Dean will explain various ways to become more influential in your life, and will give examples of how notable social change agents have used influence. Let's hear from him now.
There are 6 keys to influence. In other words, if you want to have influence in your environment, however you define your environment, there's 6 keys that you have to have. And we're going to go through each one fairly slow so we can understand it, and I have quite a few stories to really showcase the examples of each. So first, you want to show the value and the reward of change. Again, we're going to go through each one. Second is you want to have something someone wants. That's a great discussion. The third one is superior communication skills. Fourth is to be respected. Fifth is to be likable. And sixth is to be confident and inspiring. What's interesting is many of you have come, obviously, at the beginning of this presentation, and it's great how similar your ideas were about how to gain influence are the ones that we have in this presentation, which means that you all are thinking about along the right realm. You need to have more than one, of course, and so hopefully out of this discussion you'll see that these skills are easy to obtain. If you keep them at the forefront, you'll find that you do much better in influencing your environment when you keep these in mind. So let's go to the first one, which is really, I would call this the foundation. Change. Change replaces the security of what is known for the insecurity of what is unknown. Change is almost always resisted unless it benefits a person. And so remember what influence was when we started out. Influence is changing your behavior so that you can change somebody else's behavior, or simply figuring out how to change somebody else's behavior. Well, you would not need influence if everybody did things the way you wanted. But the reason you want to have influence is because you want somebody else to do things the way you want. As simple as that. And what we're saying in this first slide is change is going to be resisted. So what we want to tell you is to give you the background about how to change something. Whether it is the workplace or the amount of money you spend, how to change things. And so we've just given you the 5 things that you can start to think about when you try to change things. First, change is a natural part of life. Everything changes. I was going to, it's comical to me sometimes when I hear people that said, well, I don't like change. I do not like change at all. And I tell them, well, how about if I double your pay? Oh, I like that. And right away I tell them, well, you shouldn't like it because it's a change. We're doubling your pay. Well, it's not that I don't like change. I just don't like change that maybe doesn't favor me. Few people will say that. But I don't know very many people in life that do not like change as long as it benefits them. And on this whole slide, the one thing I want to point out about change, and it also goes to influence, is anytime you change something, you have to think about how it's going to benefit somebody else. And that is what you promote. Change is almost always accepted when people see that it's in their best interest to change. When I think of showing the value and the reward of change, I often think of Barack Obama. And if people remember when he first ran for election, and this isn't a political statement, when he first ran for president, almost his whole platform was he wanted a more collaborative foreign policy. He wanted to work with Congress. And the big statement was, change you can believe in. And his thought was, we're going to change this country, and it can be done. And it's going to benefit you. Again, I'm not making a political statement, but it's interesting how much of his message was change that you can believe in. He didn't say him, you can believe in, and that things would be different. So on that slide, take a look at some of the challenges of change, but also if you understand the root, how change can occur, it's much easier to facilitate change. that it is a natural part. And again, like I said, you really have to show that change is advantageous to somebody. The more advantageous people see about doing something different, the easier it is for them to change. And if you can get people to change, if you understand how to get people to change, then you can influence them in the future. You have to break them out of that box. The second slide talks about, the second of the 6, talks about you have to have something somebody wants. Well, yeah, there you go. And this means that in order to influence somebody, you have to have something that they want from you. And some of you may have seen 60 Minutes this last Sunday, and they had a profile on Darrelle Revis, who's a football player. And I think he said he had 5 contracts in 6 years. But it was a fascinating profile of him. He's known as the #1 cornerback or defensive player in the NFL. And he said something that night, Sunday night, in the 60 Minutes profile. He said that he has a value and he has worth. And because of that, people are willing to pay it. He also says that you have to be good, then you can take what the market will bear. And those are quotes from his presentation. So Darrelle Revis has influence because he's good. So you have to figure out what people want, and if you have it, you have influence. If you're trying to influence a superior, remember it's harder to influence a superior than a subordinate because you don't have authority over your superior. But if you're also a fantastic worker, there you have it. You can influence your supervisor. You can go to your supervisor and say, you know, I'd like to move to our place in Texas, or, you know, to the office in Texas. And they may agree to do that because you're so good and they don't want to lose you. So figure out how to have some kind of influence. The third one talks about communication skills. This is something that everybody can get better at. And superior communication skills is the way that you relate to other people. Whether you're a sports hero or a movie star, an artist, there's a reason that we pay $5 and $10 and $15 million for an athlete or a movie star to promote a product. They do that because they know the movie star or the sports hero will sell the product. In fact, many sports athletes make more money in endorsements than they do in salary. Think of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is a billionaire mainly because of his Nike shoes, not from what he made on the court. In fact, he owns a basketball team now. Tiger Woods is another one. Many people have made hundreds of millions of dollars based on their image because at that time and at that place, they're largely respected by the public. And it's amazing the influence that they have, not just on the youth, but just on anybody who's in their sphere of influence, including older individuals. I go back to Michael Jordan, and what we learned is be like Mike. They were telling a generation, be like Mike. If you wear these shoes, you'll be like Mike. You can go back even into the religious realm where Pope Francis, hardly anybody has met him, but millions are enthralled with the way that he lives his life. He believes that you should help those that are the less fortunate, those who don't have a chance in life, or very little chance. And he says that you should pursue this over your own selfish aims, is what his message is. To always give back. And people respect a person like that who's willing to sacrifice themselves and their own future for other people. Fourth, likable. I love this one. Some of you talked about being likable. I have always said, if you work hard and you're likable, you can be just about anything you want in life. You can have almost any success that you want if you work hard and if you're likable. Will Smith is a likable person. Tom Hanks is a likable person. They have a likable image, and people pay to see them. They pay to be around them. And you become influenced by these people because you like them and you want to be like them. That's so important to become a likable person. In fact, I did a little study and found out, as I was researching likability and likable, that the most likable country in the world, anybody want to take a guess what that country is? Voted by a big poll, was actually Canada, very close to the United States. And it was followed by Sweden, the Netherlands, and Norway. What's interesting is that second, third, and fourth are in Northern Europe, the same cluster. It's kind of amazing. These are places that you want to go because here's the key thing, they make you feel good. And here in the United States, it reminds me of the bar Cheers, that show Cheers, where the song says, where everybody knows your name, and every time Norm would walk in, people would go, Norm. People want that. They want to feel liked. And if you can make somebody else feel liked, they will follow you, not to the ends of the earth, but they would follow you because you make them feel good. That's what it is about Likeable. If you make people feel that you care about them, that you like them, that their interest is your interest, if you can figure out how to do that, you will have influence in almost any environment that you have. And that brings us to the last one, which is confidence and inspiring. We talked about the first slide, which is change. Change is very daunting. People resist change. So if you can figure out a way to reduce that change, then you have a better chance at having influence. And the sixth and final one that you can do to gain more influence is to be confident. Leaders need followers, and followers need to be assured that the direction they're going is not only achievable, but worthwhile. So what's achievable? People want to spend time on things that will work, on things that they can achieve. And they don't want to invest time and effort if you can't reach the so-called brass ring, if you can't achieve your ambitions. So it has to be something that people realize that I can do this. You know, if you work out for 6 months, you will get stronger. People want to realize that that can happen. And that's achievable. Let's talk about worthwhile. There was also on 60 Minutes a presentation on Make-A-Wish. And the Make-A-Wish Foundation has been around since 1980, long time. And it started with a 7-year-old boy. He had a dying wish. He wanted to be a motorcycle cop. And the lady that founded Make-A-Wish worked with the Arizona Department of Public Safety, and they fulfilled this young boy's wish. Unfortunately, he died a month later, but it started the Make-A-Wish. They wanted, in some way, to give people a wish. And today, that group collects over $100 million a year. There's 25,000 volunteers. And it's a foundation, and it is an organization that exists just to promote wishes to people who have serious illnesses. And so it's worthwhile. And so if you're trying to influence an environment, pick something where you're confident you're going to achieve it, and it's got to be worthwhile to achieve. And that's what's an important part of that. And so some concluding thoughts. The first thing I want everybody to remember is this is all doable. This is a very doable presentation. Every single one of us in this presentation can gain more influence. And as we've shown you with the 6 strategies, they are all learnable. It just takes an investment of your time and recognizing that this is what I have to do in order to gain influence. Secondly, these are all personal characteristics for the most part. Communication skills and likability. So these are doable things, and absolutely you can gain influence from some, I think in some ways, simple characteristics. But I think to give you one more example as we conclude and then we'll ask some questions is that one of the most, I found, hardworking, respectable, likable, inspiring persons of certainly this last century was Mother Teresa. And she founded the Missionaries of Charity, which consisted of about 4,500 sisters in 133 countries. And they ran hospices and homes for people with AIDS, with leprosy and tuberculosis, soup kitchens, did clinics, and also schools. And most know that she won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979, but maybe the greatest respect paid to her life when she passed away was from the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who said that, quote, she was a rare and unique individual who lived long for higher purposes. Her lifelong devotion to the care of the poor, the sick, and the disadvantaged was one of the highest examples of service to our humanity, end quote. What is most interesting about that statement is, if anybody knows about India and Pakistan is the arch enemy of India. And for somebody in Pakistan to actually say that about their fellow country, the country next door, really talked about the influence that Mother Teresa has, not just as a citizen of India, but a citizen throughout the world. And that lies, and therein lies at the heart of gaining influence, which I hope everybody remembers, that yes, you have to know how to change, you have to have something somebody wants, and you have to be able to communicate well within your environment. But it's those personal characteristics that determine your ability to influence those within your world. So work hard, be likable, be respected, and be inspiring, which we learned about in our earlier slides. Become a Jesse Jackson, a Margaret Thatcher, a Mother Teresa. And if you pursue the right ambitions in a decent and noble manner, then you really can influence the world to become a better place to live.
One of the key takeaways from Dean's presentation is that your worth is not determined by what you bring to the table. Your worth is determined by what you do once you are at the table. While there are many aspects to influence, it is important to note that people are more influenced by people they respect, who do what is right, and who work to improve the human condition. I'm Dan Ambrosio with Walden Career Services, and thank you so much for watching.